Welcome to this episode of Cosmedi Pros. Today I am here with Craig Molyneux from HD Hairlines. Welcome to the show, Craig.
Hello, Matt.
Hey mate, good to see you here. So Craig, you've been an established artist in Liverpool, one of the top rated clinics around there for quite some time now. Why don't you just tell us and the listeners today, how you came into SMP and a little bit about your story and journey to business?
Yeah, so started off barbering. I was barbering for a number of years, and then I was actually looking for a way out. I thought, I'm fed up with barbering now. Need something else to do. Didn't really know what, and then I came across SMP. Studied it for a little while. Was watching people on Instagram, YouTube, trying to find out what it was, if I could just do it myself. Eventually went and took a course, and then started building the business. And I think, as you said, I probably built the biggest SMP business in Liverpool. And then we were doing training. Well, we still are doing bits of training as well. Training and SMP, but I've backed off the training a little bit because I just don't like the model of training. But yeah, that's where we are.
So we'll touch on the training a little bit later. So you trained SMP before COVID, didn't you? Or you were
Yeah, I was. It must be. It'll be 5 or 6 years this April. 2018, I think. Oh yeah, it's almost.
yeah.
Yeah, when was
So
COVID-19 or 20?
I think 20 was when it like hit the lockdowns, basically.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
with that experience, did you notice any
yeah.
significant changes like pre-COVID and after COVID coming out in the industry?
I'd say pre-COVID things were a bit slow, and then as we came out of COVID, I think SMP boomed in the UK. I don't know whether it was the influx of like money or people not being in work, having time off to get SMP, but it boomed. And then it seems to have gone back to the level of where we were before COVID. So whereas like I think we all thought in the UK we were going to hit those big heights that the Americans are hitting. I think now it's slow. It tapered off, and we might sort of be picking up again this year now. It's hard to say. It's been a good start to this year, but it's hard to say whether we'll keep rising on that same trajectory.
So someone sort of starting out, they're new to the SMP just now.
Yeah.
What are some things you think they should have in mind or would be some things to have in place, starting a business in SMP in 24?
Money. Loads of money. I think the misconception is, and this is what I done myself, is I thought, oh, this is a new treatment. I'm seeing a few people making a lot of money from it. I'll go and do that. Later on, learning that these people are investing thousands, if not tens or hundreds of thousands, into advertising. And then I had to learn the hard way that now I need to spend money on advertising. And I think the thing is, I get new artists who will message me on Instagram, Facebook, whatever it may be, and they'll be asking me, "Oh, what's the best way to get clients? How can I get new clients? I'm doing one or two a month. How can I get more?" And the first thing I say to them is, "You're gonna have to start spending your money." So I think the naivety is any other business in the world, isn't it? So if you want to go and open a shop, you're going to have a pool of money to kit your shop out, to buy your stock, to put advertisements in the window, whatever it may be. Or but with SMP, I think we think you'll do a course, and a week later you'll start an Instagram, and people will see your Instagram and they'll book in. It just doesn't go that way. So I'd say if you're starting out and you want to do it properly, is have a pool of money and hit the advertising hard.
Yeah, I think I've heard a lot and seen a lot as well. I think it's very much people buy a nice website, they put a lot of money
Yeah,
into a course, and then kind of suddenly realize they haven't got any clients. And I think very much in SMP, particularly, it's reviews are very important. I think if you haven't got
yeah,
at least 10 reviews,
yeah.
on your
I done a client there this morning, and he said he's shopped around. He spoke to about 5 people. He spoke to one in Manchester, and he said this guy's been going for 10 years, but he's only got 7 reviews on Google. And he said, I liked his work. I liked what he was saying. He said, but you've got nearly 100 reviews. So it was an easy choice to come to you instead of going to him. He said, because it created, he was like, I wasn't sure whether he was showing me fake pictures or if it even is, because he's only got 7 reviews, but he said he's been doing it 10 years. So I think you're right. I think those reviews do make a big difference. But then starting off, how do you get your reviews if you got no clients? So
Yeah, that's
you need that advertising.
that is the hard thing. So with the advertising, and I know you've tried quite a few different marketing approaches and got a bit of experience with different companies and the different methods that are available. Have you found one way of advertising particularly helpful or a more balanced approach?
I wouldn't say so. I'd say I don't know. I'm banned from Facebook advertising, so I couldn't tell you anything about that. The company I worked with got me banned from Facebook advertising, and I haven't been able to rectify it. That worked well when I was working with that company. That worked well for a period of time, and I'd say that died off when Apple done the privacy update. So when Apple done that, things died off quick on the Facebook advertising for the SMP for me. I don't know if other people are having success with it, but it was going well, and that's probably when I was having me problem. I was having a good time then. We were getting clients in, but what I found with the Facebook ones was they don't know what it is. So I might get 50 leads a month, and I'll try and get in touch with them all. 10 of them might pick the phone up. 5 of them might actually know what SMP is, and then the rest of them might want a hair transplant. So the conversion rate on the Facebook stuff wasn't never that great. I'd say Google's better but slower, strangely enough. But then usually if we get the leads from Google, they've searched for you, they know what you are. There's a pretty high rate of conversion on those Google ones. So I'd say Google. Instagram I'd say is no good. As in organically. I don't think unless you're gonna go out there and create a big brand, then Creative Scalps has done a good job and he's created a brand there on social media. Taylor Perry as well in America. I'd say he's another one who's created a brand on social media that probably will pick up clients daily from what he's doing on social media. But for most people, I think Google's probably the best way to go.
Yeah, I think with Instagram, if you're new starting on Instagram, it's very hard. I think a lot of established ones were there kind of within the first wave, and they've got, like you say,
Yeah,
their brand very much established. They're kind of known. I think just going out onto that would be a challenge unless you're, got a lot of money behind it and a lot of
yeah,
power. From what I've seen, I think Google's an easier route if you're coming out newer. If you want leads that actually know what you're doing and are looking for it. So you touched on the training a little bit. We've seen quite an explosion, I would say, from companies offering training in SMP, certainly over the last sort of year to 18 months. What are
yeah.
some of your thoughts on what's being offered, what's good within the industry on that?
Do you know what? I genuinely say all the training's crap. So look at it as a look at it as a tattoo artist. The tattoo artist is going to an apprenticeship. For 3 months, I know tattoo artists. For 3 months, they won't even let you touch someone's skin. They'll just have you drawing. And even at 3 months, they might not let you touch someone's skin with a needle. But in 3 days, they'll give you a piece of paper and go, "You're an artist." Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I've been part of the problem and was doing training, but I tried to do it differently. So my main thing was we were doing a week's training, but then I was giving you an SMP client and we would complete that client from start to finish. So the student would have to come back, do a first, second, and third session, and then I'd make them come back for a fourth session, and I would finish it off and make them watch. Now, I would have liked to extend it so it was longer, but to put a price tag on that for making them come, no one would have bought the course. The problem you've got, well, one of the problems was with that course there. So it was taking about you were doing a week's training, and then you're coming back for about a month. So wherever you might have been in the UK, you were having to come back to me. People were ringing me up and saying, "How much is your SMP course?" I'd tell them it was priced, I'd say low for what I was offering to get that course going. And people would ring me and say, "Oh, can I do your course?" Yeah. How long is your course? I'd tell them, and then I'd say, "I want you to come back." And they go, "Do I have to come back? I just want my certificate at the end of the week." So I think the problem at the moment, well, there's two problems. Is we can bang these training courses out quick and make big money fast. It is a problem, but it's not to the artist, is it? It's nice. But if you've got any models going forward, you probably shouldn't do it. So the issue being is the model from the start has been do a few days training and then you're qualified. And now the public or students that want to take the course, potential students, know that that's the model. So when you try and implement anything else, so like I was saying, right, you're going to do a month, they didn't want to do it because they can go down the road and get it quicker somewhere else, a little bit cheaper. And now the other thing is as well with the training, not only are these training courses crap, but they're cheap. So one of the biggest ones here in the UK now is charging 1,500 quid. You can be an SMP artist. I think, to be honest, I think average now, most of the courses I'm seeing, it's 1,500 quid. You're going to get your kit. You're going to do, I don't know, 3 or 4 days training. You'll do a couple of models in there and then get told you know everything about SMP. Go and crack on. Yeah, it's crap.
I think with that, it's kind of a bit like sort of happened with SMP in itself as well. Like the more you have of people selling a thing, you're inevitably going to get a bit of a price war.
Yeah.
It's the easiest way to kind of get ahead is come out with and offer something lower. I think so. What do you think on that? The difference between like group training and one-on-one training? Do you think there's a difference in quality? Do you think you could do group training can be done well, or do you think it should always kind of be one-to-one sessions?
I think you can do small group training well, but I think it probably should be one to one. I think ideally you'd be offering apprenticeships, and I think the problem is because SMP's been so new and the price tag was so high at the start. So this is why I got into SMP. The honest answer is I seen a company in Birmingham was making an absolute fortune and he was buying Gucci trainees every other week. And he had a queue of people wanting to get SMP. He was going on a holiday to Dubai every weekend, and I thought, if I go and do that, I'll be doing that as well. But what was really happening was he was selling a training model. So he was doing massive group training, and really that's where he was making the money. So I think you can do small group training, but I think it's got to be one on one really, and it should be a longer period of time. It should be an apprenticeship thing. Whereas going again, I've started that then I forgot where it was going. But it's it's been because it was new, high price tag, people wanted to get into it. So the artists are selling training and letting them go out on their own. Whereas we touch back to how a tattoo artist will work. So for it, if I'm a tattoo artist and you want to learn from me, you'll come to my studio, Craig. I want to be a tattoo artist. These are my drawings, blah 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 blah. And I'll go, okay, Matt, come and hang around the studio, come and tidy up, come and learn off us, and then you'll work with us, and then you'll be expected to work there for maybe a year or two under that studio to pay them back for what they've trained you. So you won't necessarily they're not taking out your wages, but they want you working for that studio. And I reckon that's where SMP is messed up. Is it's been a lot of people thinking I can go make that big money on my own. And I think we've almost diluted it. And I think there's overtraining going on, bad training going on, and it's making SMP, especially in the UK. I think you get away with a bit more in America because it's massive, but in the UK it's small. So I think you've got maybe a handful of SMP artists cleaning up, getting all the business, and the rest of us are fighting for it all. Whereas in the start, I think if those businesses would have offered training and then went, okay, well now you work for me, I think we'd be in a better place.
Yeah, people train and then the people they train will go and open up shops. Suddenly they've got
Yeah,
five competition in their area that they've just trained
yeah,
as well, which is going to happen. But yeah, that is going to make other effects on business just because competition is going to affect what's available. And I do also think, someone who doesn't do SMP but has it quite well from an outside view, there really is an art to it. Like, it isn't just dots on heads,
yeah,
it isn't just doing it. And I think that's probably something that's a bit under, like with a tattoo, it's more appreciated because you can see all the differences. Like even someone who's
Yeah,
not trained can see there's a lot of differences in the skill of the tattoo. But sometimes I think to see the differences in skill in SMP, you kind of need to be a bit of an insider or have seen enough to sort of know the difference
yeah,
between what's really good, what's a different hairline. Other people I've spoken to have said like it's not even necessarily good or bad, it's just different styles of hairline and
yeah.
different stuff people do. And I think that's probably really hard to convey to just people coming into the industry or people looking to purchase the service.
I think even to convey to other artists, because I think some people get in their head, well, if that doesn't look like mine, that's not right. Everyone will have a way of doing it. Do you know what I mean? So like, could be any job in the world, couldn't it? Any creative job, as long as you're getting the result at the end that looks good, you might do it doing a handstand and do it with your feet. Do you know what I mean? But if it works for you and you get the, but I think like you're saying it, the customer doesn't know what's good and what's bad, so they'll take the cheaper one. And then I think some artists don't really understand the process and actually tattooing and what is good and bad in the skin. So I think it's on the whole spectrum from client to the artist that a lot of people don't really understand what's good SMP, what's bad SMP, and some that they think is bad SMP is still good SMP, even though it doesn't look like theirs.
Essentially different style.
Just different, yeah. Different style in it. It's like a portrait artist doing tattoos, and then you've got like a classical one doing all the colours and shading. So one might not like the other one, but it's not wrong.
I think Simon Kayler on here a few weeks ago, pointed out as well. The other thing is sometimes it's like, what's the client happy with, or what can
Yeah,
the client be happy with? What they can afford. He sort of likened it to someone might have a tattoo which someone doesn't think is very good, but for them, that's they're really
it's
happy with it.
great.
And if that client's got better confidence from it, it's done what they
Yeah,
want it to do, and they are happy with it. To a degree, obviously, there's loads of blowouts
yeah,
and it's
yeah,
completely gone.
yeah,
It might need sort of rework. But yeah, if they're happy with the product and service they've got, there has to be some acceptance of that. And there also has to be, I think, sometimes you have to be aware that if you're looking maybe as artists at other people's work, you don't necessarily know what hairline the client was asking for or what they were sort of pushing for. Like they might have really wanted it to sort of be a bit more straight or a bit more defined.
yeah,
So yeah, when judging stuff on social media or just looking at pictures, it's like in anything, you don't really have the
yeah,
full story of what's gone on
yeah.
there. And touching on social media, then we know certainly in its own circle, SMB's got quite a big circle. We've got the forums, we've got people go on. What are some positives and negatives in that space?
In them groups, I wouldn't say there's much positive going on in them groups. I'd say, to be completely honest, then well, you might get. I think you do get some honest people in them groups, and it's usually the people asking for advice. But then I think you've got to be wary of whose advice you're accepting in them groups. This was told to me years ago, to be honest with you. Someone said to me, I used to go in them groups all the time, and someone said to me, be careful about whose advice you're accepting in them groups, because if they've got the time, these big name artists, if they've got the time to offer out advice, how busy are they actually doing the work they say they're doing? Now, I know everyone's got a bit of time, but if you're a big artist and you're busy round the clock and you're fully booked months in advance, have you really got time to be answering some beginner's question from the back end of nowhere up in Scotland and you're over in Kentucky in America? Do you know what I mean? Have you? So I think the positives in them groups are the new people who are there looking for advice, and we'll get a few people who are nice and who are sound. But I'd say the majority of those groups are just to feed ego. And I think the worst, I think I'm blocked out of the group, to be honest with you. The worst group was, I think I am blocked out of it, was the Team Micro group. That is the biggest, bitchiest group on Facebook, I'd say. But I can't see it no more. I don't think I'm in it. But yeah, there's not many positives to it. And as you know, I was telling you the other day, I've just had an incident. It wasn't even in a group. Wasn't even in a group. It's one of these big artists. He's from Miami. Don't even know what he's called. But well, I do know what he's called. His name's Stephen G or Stevie G or whatever he calls himself. So big name, thinks he's great. For the last 6 months, he's been on a mission to degrade other artists. So he's degrading other artists, saying, "Oh, I can't believe this work's bad. I can't believe this is still accepted within our industry. I'm striving to make it better, blah, blah, blah. I've got a new ink range out. I've got this, I've got that." But he's just bashing other artists anonymously. Well, he's cutting them out and going, "This has been sent to me." But the mistake he made the other day was he chose to put mine on. And I got straight in the comments and just said to him, "These are my pictures. If you're striving to make this industry better and you're such a good person and you're only here to help people, then why haven't you just messaged me and gone, 'Here you go, buddy. I think this, 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 and your work. If you try this, this, and this, it could be better.'" But it's not about that for the. I can't speak on everyone, but I'll genuinely put my life on this for him. It's about ego. It's about lining his pocket, and it's about making himself an expert within the industry. So these newbies will go, "Oh, he knows what he's talking about. I'll go and buy his course." So I just don't. These groups, you've got to be wary of. But that wasn't even in a group. That was just a soul out and attack. And then when I commented back, he decided to say, "Oh, I don't even know who you are, but you might know me." Listed all his credentials again on his ego trip to display himself as the expert to sell the course. And the best part about it is, Matt, is we're friends on Facebook and we have had conversations in comments and private messages in the past. So he must have to some degree know who I am because he searched me Instagram, posted me pictures, and blared out the logo. So even if he didn't know me, he'd know, "Oh, they've come from that HD Hairlines. Let me have a look at the rest of his work." So it was bullshit, basically. But what happened, it didn't work out for him, Matt, because I commented, a few people jumped on board, agreed with me that he was being a little bit toxic, and he changed his tune and he was like, "Oh, they're not your pictures," and he's took it down. But I bet you me life that they were my pictures because I know by the background. So I think you've got this sort of you've got artists negatively approaching or attacking other artists to gain for themselves. I, I think that's a massive problem. I think that comes back to the training stuff as well. I don't think any of it's going to progress and get better if people are just doing that because it's just selfishness because it is just about the money.
Essentially, yeah, as a promotion tool, that would be quite a classic marketing trick to, yeah.
It is.
Another conversation I had a few weeks ago, we did speak on some of this stuff, and I kind of said there's a place to call something out, but I do think, especially if you know who the person is or you've got contact, like reaching out first would be the better thing to do and have a discussion about it, or have the discussion in public would be more helpful if there is something to be resolved or something to be learned from. Yeah,
Yeah.
have that discussion in the comments would be the better thing, I think, in my opinion.
And then I think it comes down as well to what you were saying before is it doesn't all have to look the same to be good. So just because his style is different, so he's bashing other artists. And I've had this locally. There's another one. We won't say it now. But he's the same because he doesn't like the way I do things. He's decided that he's the best and he starts as well. So there was a battle between me. Well, it was more so from his side, where he's trying to discredit me on social media, tagging the business name in, messaging me. It's I don't know. It's a strange world, but I think it comes back to that what you said. It's not everyone's has to look the same for it to be good. You can have a different style, and it can still be good. But I don't know. I think a lot of the industry is becoming everyone's slagging each other off for gain. And like you said, it's a classic marketing technique. But if you're gonna do it, I think you just need to own it. If you want to start calling people out, call them out.
Marketing techniques, I'll explain. You put yourself at the opposite of whatever it is you're doing, essentially, because you're going to polarize, whoever's listening. The people who want to buy off you will go with you. The people who don't will go with the other person. But I think from an industry view, there is like different styles. And I think certainly SMP, yeah, there's conversations I had, those would be better, the people with different styles or different views, especially when it's from longer serving artists, talk with each other, a round table or having a discussion, maybe even if you
Yeah,
disagree at the end of it, people will learn more from that and take more from that than finding just
yeah,
different shots in isolation. But yeah, again, I think that's maybe a bit of social media as well. And then where the industry is, I think as well, it's been certainly in the UK. I think not so much this year. This year's been I think like last year was a very competitive year compared to the couple of years before. From like the people I was working with, it was a lot of stuff going on, and I think that's caused a little bit of infighting, bickering, just where people are using different sales tactics. So like
yeah,
I see some of the ones who are like keeping the price higher end will take shots at the ones going lower end, vice versa.
yeah,
And again, no one's, there's different strategies, different reasons why lots of people will do everything. I think the main thing for SMP, and I think what's really important with SMP is it's still a very new industry in the UK. I still speak to a lot of people who just don't even know what it is, or when I say I work with SMP
yeah,
artists, they're still like I have to explain that. So I think really more unity in the community and
yeah.
more working together is actually what's going to sort of push the
Well,
industry better,
well,
which then everyone will do better overall. Like, there's still really your
yeah,
enemies, the general hair loss industry. Like, that's who you guys really
yeah.
need to team up against. And kind of
Well, that
why
was
is
it.
SMP better than the pills and potions? Is really what you should be
Yeah.
looking at. Um,
Well, you know yourself that was my plan, wasn't it? To create my big plan was to create unity, to try and get artists together under one banner, and then we all benefit from it together rather than we all fight each other. So that was my big plan for last year, which didn't go well. But the idea was there, and it come from a good place. So the plan was, instead of like training people and they go out on their own and they're solely on their own, the idea was to get them in, train them, put them under the HD banner, and then we start to make something where we start to become a national brand, so we're known. And not only that, then if a student comes to me and trains with me and he goes off and he opens HD Hairlines Leeds, but he's not on his own now. Do you know what I mean? And then another one comes, HD Hairlines Nottingham. I don't know, I'm just picking random places. And she's out there on her own. But she wouldn't be now. Now there's a team of three here. So you're not, as you said at the start, what would you say to someone starting off? And I was like, throw a load of money in. The idea was that by making an umbrella of HD Hairlines and having others, that, yeah, to have the HD brand, you'd be paying in a little bit of money, but all that money would be going to advertising, so we all benefit. But the universe didn't see it that way, and it shot me down. But I think that idea would still work. I think I just ran out of funding to do it. I think it needed bigger funding than what even I thought it would take to get it going.
it's still got quite a good place, like the franchise model. I think again, I think it's partly with like we've touched on with the training at the moment, and a lot was advertised, and certainly back then is as well the personality type.
Yeah,
And I know you kind of went a bit with the franchise model. I know someone else who does a little bit of the kind of franchise model. But I think at the moment, the people it attracts, people who are going to like personality wise going to go independent, just because
yeah,
that's what
yeah,
what's marketed at. Hey, you can do this as an
yeah,
individual, and that's kind of the people it's attracting to the industry. I think if it went more of a long-term apprenticeship route and stuff like that, you'll probably find a little bit more of, oh, actually, yes, because then they've as well, they haven't just spent a weekend with your company. If they spent 6 months with your
yeah.
company, there's going to be more attachment to it, more.
I think I think the hard thing as well to start that apprenticeship model is, as you know, in the UK, it's pretty hard to find clients consistently. So to have that steady flow, and like I say, there's probably a handful. I reckon there's 5 or 6 SMP companies in the country that are constantly booked out, and then the rest are picking up the ones that didn't want to go there, or the ones that just didn't find them yet. Do you know what I mean? I think the rest of us are picking up that because the knowledge isn't there yet to make it a big treatment. So I think the hard part is you're going to need them bigger companies to adopt that apprenticeship model. So if I done it, if I adopted that apprenticeship model now and had an apprentice, well, there wouldn't be constant work there for him. So he'd be sitting there doing nothing a lot of the time. Whereas for that to work, you're gonna need some of them bigger ones to do it that way. But then does that does that I don't think in some ways it will limit the growth, but in other ways I think it needs to limit the growth because there's too many flooding the market. I think that's a problem. Like you were saying before, if I train 10 people here now in Liverpool and they all open in Liverpool, now there's like 15 people in Liverpool. So I've gone from taking the lion's share of the SMP market to now I'm one of 15 because there's already like 5 of us here.
Yeah, I mean, I know in some areas like where I do Google, like two years ago, I had like three people competing on Google Ads for SMP. Like now there's like 10,
Yeah,
15 companies doing it in the same
yeah,
area, and then that pushes the costs up. And same like with like the SEO in the Google business. Again, it
yeah,
was easy, and I think a lot of the old people kind of ranked just because they were, there's two SMP companies in the city. Well,
yeah,
obviously you're going to be number one and two, but when you've got 10 or 20 opening up, then it suddenly starts becoming more competitive. And then yeah, and I think I see a lot again with the reviews, and that's where I push that. The one with how a high amount of that, I think are going to struggle a lot more to convert. And again, that's where drop the price is going to be the easiest way to get people in, quick, and even if it's only
yeah.
short term to push up the reviews. Um, so yeah, it's going to be interesting how it kind of grows over the next couple of years. I still think, it has got a good future. It's a really good treatment.
I think so. Yeah, I think it just needs to. I think I think there's going to be almost like I don't know. I think there might be some sort of well, not even a collapse, but I think there'll be like I think a lot of SMP companies have got to go for it to grow. Do you know what I mean? I think there's too many, and there will have to be some sort of change. And I think it's different to the American market. Forget about America because America's huge.
Yeah,
So
they got
like I
size
think you can get
difference.
away with America. I think I think the problem in England is we're comparing ourselves to America. So we're thinking we should all be driving around in Rolls Royces like Taylor Perry. Do you know what I mean? But you've got to think his whole state of Florida. So he's in Miami, isn't he? But his whole state of Florida is probably bigger than the UK.
Yeah,
So you got to think how many big artists are there in Florida. There's probably only 5 big artists in Florida. I don't know, but Florida's bigger than the UK. So then, if there's 10, well, how many artists do you reckon are there in the UK? There's got to be over 100 in
yeah,
a small
easily.
space. It's easy over 100 having a go at it. And we're all fighting for a limited market of people. Because, for one, I sound like I'm slagging it all off here. But there is, like you say, there's still growth in it. I just think it needs to be refined now. I think there's too many people going at it. And
Yeah,
unfortunately, there isn't enough to go around right now.
I think the growth is going to kind of be so you're going to have people at the lower end split out in just doing not just SMP. They'll like have SMP,
Yeah,
PMU, some aesthetic stuff, and do like a multi and do it that way.
yeah,
I think you'll kind of have the bigger, kind of already well-known established brands. They're just going to hold out and survive because they are brands. They're going to kind of hold their
yeah,
price and hopefully, carry on doing the sort of training. And then I think the other way is going to be possibly like people more like doing niche SMP and kind of doing more focus areas. So rather than just scalp micropigmentation, maybe like just like, hey, I do SMP for women, or I work with people with FUT scars, kind of really
yeah,
focusing on that area because then they're going to
yeah,
be able to like be different. But yeah, there's growth possibilities, but I think it's at the moment everyone's just out. I do SMP, I'm top rated in my area, and
yeah.
I sell it at this price. That's kind of what a lot of people are just doing as a base, so that's hard for the public to pick between. So on side of that, then what are well, us talk inks and other stuff because I know from your YouTube videos and there's some stuff like that. What are some you would say are some myths or maybe misconceptions within the SMP industry?
I think that isn't it. I think the big one's ink, isn't it? I'm still yet to see any proof that there's any difference between the special SMP ink and tattoo ink, and well, I know for a fact it's not real. I wish I could. I wish I could find it. It's on my old phone. I've got an email from one of the biggest tattoo ink suppliers. Well, one of the biggest tattoo ink. What do you call them? Not suppliers. They make it. Manufacturers in the world. So I was emailing the owner, and he's told me that he sells their ink, their normal black ink, to SMP companies to rebottle and rebrand. So I've had the message in black and white that it's no different. I think I think more and more people now know it, but there's still people trying to push that you can get these magic inks and these different ones you can get, and I think that's coming around from the start. I think when it first came about, I think SMP artists wanted to scare tattoo artists from doing it, whereas they'll tell them, "Oh, it's a different machine. We use different needles. We use different inks. Nothing's different. You use tattoo ink, you use a tattoo machine, and you use tattoo needles." And you're breaking the skin and putting ink in, so you're doing a tattoo. Essentially, you're just a tattoo artist that specializes in doing dot work on the scalp. No different than like there'll be world famous tattoo artists who only specialize in doing portraits. Do you know what I mean? And they might only do portraits on arms because they know they're going to come out the best on the arms. It's exactly the same thing. You're just a tattoo artist that specializes in one area. But the ink thing is the biggest one, and then there ain't nothing special. There's talk now of warming these inks up and putting different. It's all smoke. To me, it's smoke and mirrors. So they're coming out with all this new stuff. The fella there who was called me out the other day, he's got his incline out at the minute, hasn't he? He's got his new incline with Permablend. It's all about warming the colours up so it settles well in every skin tone and you get the right tone and blah blah. Now, okay, he's worked with a big brand and they've probably tested them and he's telling us they're the best thing ever and he's getting the best results. But we're not going to know until about 5 years' time how good they are. So I can come out now, I could get you what have I got here? Imagine this is my bottle of ink. I could tell you that's the best ink in the world and sell you loads of it. And 5 years later, your head might be purple. Do you know what I mean? But we wouldn't have known until 5 years later. So I think the better thing is with the actual tattoo inks that are branded for tattoo artists, they've been out for years. So you know how they heal in skin. So I get where they're coming from, and we want to warm these inks up so they settle nice in skins and all the rest of it. But right now it's in theory, isn't it? There's no proof to back it up because we haven't seen the healed results yet. So, and that goes for them all these different ones. I'm not just picking him out. All of them who come out with their special inks. So if they come out with an ink tomorrow, we're gonna have to wait 5 years to see what it looks like in the skin. It doesn't matter who it is. It could be me. I could bring out an ink now. But what most of them are doing is they're just rebottling them, putting them in another bottle and selling them. And people might listen and go, "Oh, you can't do that." There's no rules, there's no regulations on tattoo inks. Because I looked at doing it myself, and I almost done it. Because the thing was, what gets me the worst part about it is they'll take a bottle of tattoo ink that'll cost you £20 for 120 milliliters, and they'll rebottle it and sell you that same black ink in a 30 milliliter bottle for 100. So it just it baffles me. But I looked into it and I looked at the legality of it, and tattoo ink in America and the UK and most of the world is unregulated. So you can just bottle up ink and sell it.
Interesting. I think part of that obviously again comes from the fact SMP is still new, so people are going to be trying new things and new techniques. I think, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Like, be interesting to visit back in 5 years' time. We'll bookmark this and come and see where everything
I'm not.
is. I mean, I don't. Yeah.
I'm not
Um.
sitting here and saying that it won't be. It won't be good.
Yeah.
I'm just saying you can't really say this is the best thing that you need to make you better because I'll guarantee it's all right. You can't guarantee that. one of the companies, one of the PMU companies, the ink manufacturers, they've just been banned in France, haven't they? Because they had pathogens or bacteria in the bottles in the ink, and that's coming from one of the biggest brands ever. So to say, "Oh, I've developed this ink and it's going to be the best," you don't know, because if even they're using one of the biggest brands in the industry to do it, they've just had problems. So I think anything like that, anyone who's telling you they've got special SMP ink, just be wary of it. Check the ingredients and then go and check a black tattoo ink and go, oh, actually, that's $80 cheaper. That's £80 cheaper. I'll buy that one.
Interesting one to follow. So what are some positive things you see in sort of SMP, and what are some of the good things you see in the future maybe, and what's Craig doing in the future?
Positive of it, it is pretty positive in it. You know what I mean? There are negatives to anything. I think the positives are in it. You are helping people. I think the people you meet is quite positive. So most of my clients now will come back for regular top ups, and you know them. I think they probably consider themselves friends. Probably not friends, but you know what I mean. If you see them in the street or you see them in the pub, you probably stand with them for a minute and have a drink with them or whatever. You get to know them because you're spending a lot of time with them. So you get to know them on a personal level. So some of them will just message me out the blue sometimes. So I suppose it's nice the connections you make, even with some artists. Some artists are all right as well. I don't dislike them all, but some of them are all right. I think the positive is the people, really, as most things go. Is it's the people you meet. Yeah, just have. I think that's about it. And obviously, for them, I overlook this one a little bit sometimes. Is for them, you're making a big change for them. So like you are sort of changing their life a lot of the time, bringing back their confidence. And I kind of overlook that a lot because I just think what we're doing, although it's quite technical, because you've done it too many times, is quite simple. So for me, when I'm doing it, and I know it's going to look good at the end, and I know it's going to be fine. For a client coming to you, they'll be nervous and things like that. But I think the positive is obviously you're having a positive effect on a lot of people. Is one of the main ones. Going forward for me, I think is I'm going to take a more relaxed approach with SMP. I think, say 5 years. Say if we throw away the first year I was in it, for 5 years, I think I've gone really hard on trying to establish and be something big. And I think most of that really was driven by trying to make a lot of money. But then I suppose on another part, the second part, so initially I was trying to make something big, and then I was trying to push into training. The reason I was trying to push into the training wasn't mainly the money, it was more to try and change the way the training was done. Like I said to you, I tried to do it where they were coming back and finishing the models off. And then I would have liked to have done a longer one where they were just coming in the studio all the time. My main push there was to go with that, and then I tried to push for that, tried to change that a little bit. I just don't think people were ready for it, like we said before. So now more a relaxed approach. I think I'm just kind of going to do clients as and when they come in. I've got my old clients for top ups, and I think it's a better approach because it did consume me for a long time where I'd work 7 days a week. You all know yourself, there'd be times when I'd be up at like midnight making landing pages, messaging you, going, "Hey, how do we do that? What do you think about doing it?" Blah 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 blah. I'd be up all hours creating courses, thinking a different way, making YouTube videos. It does consume you. So I think going forward, more relaxed approach. I think bit of barbering again and take 3 to 4 clients, new clients a month on SMP and do it that way. And just make it really personable and just be there for those ones. So really be engaged with what I'm doing rather than thinking, okay, I've got 5 clients in this week. I need another 15 to fill the month up. And I think I kind of think that's where it went wrong in a way because I was trying to be everywhere. I was trying to do everything. I wanted to be Google Marketing. We were doing SEO. We were doing YouTube stuff. I was trying to create a national brand. I was trying to create a new way of training. I was trying to make everything work at once. And
Yeah.
I think it's just time relax back, 3 to 4 clients a month, little bit of cutting hair, and just make it chill, and just those clients that I do get is just make sure they get the best SMP they can get, which we were doing anyway. I think it's just more relaxed now, make it more enjoyable.
I think for you, you've got a very strong position in your local. I think just coasting there will be a lot better for you overall. And I think in the long term, as you know, like I said, with being one of these established brands that kind of lasts while a lot of the other stuff's going on. And yeah, I think you're doing well, mate. You'll do okay. You've got some.
We'll come out. Like I say, I just want to state it, like you're saying, coasting out, because the waters are choppy at the minute in the UK with everything. That, whether people like to admit it or not, we've got some of those bigger brands offering low price training. They've obviously got bigger overheads. People are trying to do what they can to get clients. So I think now is the time to be quiet, coast through, get your head down, and there is going to be like a renaissance period, I reckon, where everything will be better, and I think the knowledge will come about. I think a good sort of analogy to make is thinking about hair transplants. So if you think about hair transplants are massive in the UK, aren't they? And probably have been for like the last 5 years. Really, they've really boomed, especially with Turkey, low price, and in the UK as well, the prices fell. But it was probably maybe what so say almost 20 years ago that Wayne Rooney got a hair transplant. His first one. I remember that being on the news. But your normal like fella down the pub, he wasn't getting his hair transplanted because he couldn't afford it. He didn't really know about it. It's took what, maybe 15 years for that to gain traction for the everyday man to get it done. I'm not saying it's going to be that for SMP because it's happening, but I think we're a few years off that big boom and it being everyone down the pub's got SMP. Like if I could walk in a pub here in Liverpool and I reckon at least 10 people would have a hair transplant. You'd be lucky to see any SMP. I think we've just got to wait for that, and I think it's coming. I thought it was coming 5 years ago, but I think it's coming soon.
It's coming soon in the next 5 years. I think there's a lot of room for growth, definitely within it.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's a long term focus rather than a short term get rich. And I think for anyone who's getting into it, I think if they're thinking, "Oh, I'm seeing like again." The big ones that you see is Taylor Perry because he's flash and he's in America. Creative Scalps is the big one over here, isn't he? You see them, you see the success, and you think, okay, I'll get into that, I'll do that. And there are people who can do it. There are people who will get in and make a lot of money fast. But I think for the majority of people, I think if that's what you're thinking, I'm going to go and do SMP and I'm going to make loads of money. I think there's probably better businesses for you to go and do that in and make money quicker. Because I think it's more of a long run thing.
Pick something with recurring clients would be.
Yeah. Well, I think that's why.
That'd be easy. That's the hardest thing I think you've got in SMP is that you're like at zero every month. But
Yeah, that's it.
clients.
That's where the stress came from me. Is I'd do all my clients and get them done, and then we'd be going into a new month. So the stress comes then where we need to market, we need to spend more money to make money. So it can become a vicious circle. But I think you're right. I think if you want the fast cash, you want a recurring payment, don't you? And I think that's where I think that's where the PMU and the aesthetics is probably a bit of a better business model at the moment because go and get your PMU, it needs topping up. Go and get your anti-wrinkle injections, they need topping up. Go and get your Botox, that needs topping up. So I think that's where it's more obviously dominated by women. So I think that's where the girls have got the more male-dominated SMP market beat at the moment, where they've got that reoccurring. But I reckon, but then again, the hair transplant market's massive, isn't it? It's just about educating people for SMP. You can do it. It doesn't have to be a recurring thing, but we just need the knowledge.
Yeah, having more people actively coming in.